Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we're now in the make it or break it moment right now when it comes with Xbox. So we're gonna go talk about what has happened this past week, what is going on right this second, why right now is kind of like the most pinnacle moment when it comes to Xbox, especially in regards now to this big Activision acquisition, because as you guys know, there is a huge trial pretty much throughout this entire week, which is why we're covering this news quite a bit in case you guys are curious as well, and there's just a lot of stuff ongoing. And of course, right now we're in this really big limbo. It's a multi-billion-dollar limbo too as well, and of course we're all kind of patiently waiting to go and see the future of this. Now this doesn't also necessarily mean that this entire week and or this next few months is going to be 100% decided, but it's going to be one of those really big next big stepping stones of there's basically been three really big ones. Number one, when it was announced and talked about. Number two, when the CMA actually denied it. And then this is right now pretty much the third biggest one in regards to the FTC. And that's why I think almost probably the most important part, depending on what the actual outcome may go and be. So let's go talk about it. As well, if you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch room down below. Gonna be doing a little drinky drinks up on Twitch if you guys are bored and want to go see me belligerently drunk and complain that I'm single or whatever the usual down below. And we also have the Amazon links too for the consoles. And let's go and dive into the news itself. So as I have mentioned, you guys do know there's been a big court case on the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission in America, and they actually have been mostly somewhat against the Xbox side. But throughout this past few days, there's actually been a lot of really good counterpoints that has been presented by Microsoft, as well as overall kind of the vibe has been kind of somewhat swaying in Microsoft's favor. Now, this does not 100% mean that it's going to be going to their way, obviously, because the FTC still has their own way to kind of decide this, but right now they're trying their best to go get their next big official statement from the judge throughout the next week or so. The judge has a few days to kind of go and decide and probably have a chance to go mulling on over throughout the 4th of July weekend, which, by the way, if you guys are doing this type of celebration throughout the next week or so, hope you guys will relax. And it also doesn't necessarily mean that this will even be an official basically decision as of now, because right now this could also just be a waitress for the injunction, basically stating on, hey, this could also be moved up into the trial, or yeah, that we could go and give them more time to go and discuss this and think on things. It doesn't mean whatever happens is going to be a 100% yes or no, but it may also kind of skew it towards, yeah, we'll give them a little bit more time, or yeah, this kind of seems more likely, or yeah, we want to hear an additional restatement in regards to this, and well, that basically means it's not 100% decided, but there's a lot of some, I guess, good news when it comes to as well. So one big thing kind of go note too is this was pretty much it. In the opening remarks, James Wenning-Gardenton for the FTC stated the parties weren't actually here to decide whether or not the Microsoft-Activision merger happens or not. Rather, he claimed that they were there to decide whether or not the merger should be put on pause long enough for the FTC to finish evaluating the antitrust merits fully in a planned August trial, rather than have to do so retroactively when the deal was already locked in. So pretty much the good thing is that they're essentially saying, hey, we wanted this deal to happen. We wanted this to all go and just, exist. But the part two of this is, well, we just don't know if we want to do it right now or later, or if we're going to completely deny it. They're essentially trying to go move up this big trial date because it does depend. If the UK is kind of against it, but the FTC is for it, they'll go and make the deal happen. If for some reason the FTC is still very adamantly against it, and same with the CMA, they're going to probably just be like, well, we'll give up. Canada was also kind of throwing us out too as well. We might as well go give up on the trial. But once again, a lot of the good stuff actually has happened for Microsoft. When it comes to basically the big console deal, it does kind of seem like as of right this second, the PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch doesn't seem like that's such a big groundbreaking decision. A lot of folks are stating that in terms of exclusivity games, it's not the biggest deal, say for Starfield or Bethesda purchases. Part two is it doesn't necessarily really matter too much when it comes to the Switch. They have their own exclusives and kind of a somewhat separate market. At least this is what the big people are stating. And as well, when it comes to Call of Duty, it is a big deal, but at the same time, if they do want to work in some proper contracts with PlayStation, and maybe overall fine, and as well, it does go and strive more innovation if something like, say, Sony and PlayStation is not fully 100% locked on in. So there is actually some pretty good merits for this one. One of the big kind of closing remarks, though, he said he suddenly found himself challenged on it. And frankly, it seemed like the wider garden arguments hinge on Corley being on his side here. The FTC's deal in hypotheticals and theoreticals works pretty well as a measure to point out that a prospective Microsoft-Activision deal leaves a lot of unanswered questions about its potential merits and harms. If the girl wills, as he says, to raise substantial questions and make it clear the need for further review outweigh Microsoft's need to get the deal done in time, one Garner probably managed it despite being a fairly weak showing for the FTC. So the overall big thing is a lot of folks are kind of against the FTC. assuming that their kind of arguments were kind of lame, not well thought out about, and more so not really focused on the biggest deals. And this is kind of why some folks actually might be assuming that those have to go and have a not flat out no on this big acquisition, but more so kind of giving it more time to go mull over the information and can let people have more of a proper thought. We've also had some other folks kind of go throw in some bigger opinions too as well when it comes to the FTCs, and they're actually kind of saying too as well. Some folks are actually saying that the actual purchase of Activision Blizzard will actually probably be denied next week, too, because some of the requirements were clearly not satisfied. The big ones were when it comes to the cloud gaming, as you guys probably know about that one, in terms of Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, or any other future things like Google Stadia that might be stifled, or even Ubisoft Plus. Part 2 obviously is as well when it comes to the console market. Although the console market does seem like that's not the biggest deal, there was some regulatory concerns when it comes to PlayStation, noting that there actually is a very large audience that does play a lot of Call of Duty type style games on PlayStation and only playing Call of Duty as well, and that also adds a lot more extra anti-merit too. Very intriguing to go and note. But one of the bigger things too as well is just the fact of like people are just kind of assuming this actually just might be a monopoly. Like it might just be a little bit too big. And even things like say like the Activision boss is not really the biggest fan. The Activision boss himself will be getting a $3 billion cutback either way. If this deal does not go through, basically kind of like you have to have all these like lawyer talks and all these meetings and you're not really fully focusing on like your actual company. You may have to go and actually have to like do these plans and litigations and have all these different employees or whatever it might be. Also the shareholders and the stock and the company is basically put on hold. So right now they will be getting a $3 billion buyout if for some reason this deal does not go through, which will also be insane for Activision either way, and that'd probably be a good thing for the CEO to say, hey, we made $3 billion, while we're also probably hopefully have like a better, stronger business connections with PlayStation and Xbox. And as well, it comes with type of stuff too. Even the Activision boss himself even says he even has a general aversion to the idea of multi-game subscription services. Maybe part of it is being in Los Angeles and having large, big media companies move their content to those subscription streaming services, and their business results have suffered. Because don't forget, a lot of things on Activision is more on, like, say, microtransactions. I think a good example is, let's say, just a lot of stuff in terms of, like, the actual skins, in terms of, like, the actual, like, Warzone, in terms of just, well, things like Overwatch, where they have, like, these types of battle passes. A lot of it's all based on microtransactions, World of Warcraft. You can put a lot of that type of stuff into Game Pass. You may actually go lose some of the merit for the games themselves. Or as well, something like Call of Duty. You want to have a new Call of Duty every year because that's how you make your money. They also say, I don't agree with the idea of a multi-game subscription service as a business proposition going forward, but we, Activision and Microsoft, can agree to disagree. So he's basically saying, hey, if I had my say, I would not want this. But part 2 is them saying, hey, at least for us on Microsoft, well, if you want it, we'll just go and shut up. You're the boss now. I don't mind. Like, I'm still getting my big paycheck and probably have like an actual big bonus when it comes to this. But once again, even with all the kind of big deals going out, they have these 2 big filings that are kind of overdue, and these next few days will probably get even more of a bigger final say. This is not going to be the 100% final decision, but it's intriguing to see nonetheless. By 5 p.m. local time today, the 2 sides will have to file the updated versions of their proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law. So basically, have like their big final statements of like being like, yeah, this is not an antitrust, not a monopoly. This is going to be our overall plan. The overall consumers will be happy. Well, the FTC will be like, yeah, no, it either is a monopoly or it's not, and we'll have to go and see. And then basically the judge has a way to kind of read through both these big counter arguments and kind of give their own say on it. Once again, the judge may not necessarily be making a 100% call on all this type of stuff, but it's intriguing to go and see. They also said there's going to be another party making another filing on Monday about the admission of exhibits, and they believe on July 5th or 6th is the expected date. They'll be waiting for the actual, rule. But as at the same time, there is like a 4th of July holiday, so it may take a bit longer for this when it comes to the FTC, or as well, if they want to go and have the denial of the merger block, or if they approve it, they can kind of go and have all the thoughts out here too as well. So one of the big things to go note too, and so the FTC theoretically had multiple bites at the apple. All in all, the FTC proposed 5 different antitrust markets, and if the theory of harm vertical foreclosure succeeds with respect to literally any of these 5 different markets, the deal would probably be blocked. So right now it could be fully blocked, it could be like just more so delayed until August, or as well could be have a chance for appeal based on Microsoft, just on my understanding of law. So it's very intriguing though too as well, because like I said, the console market seems like it's mostly fine. Some of the streaming stuff does seem like more of the bigger issues. Mobile markets doesn't seem like the biggest deal because there are some really big other outside mobile games. So it kind of seems like the streaming still seems like the biggest deal nonetheless. The FTC does still claim that's about more so protecting the consumers, not Sony, but as well, some folks are kind of just curious to see on like how or why, because some folks are also assuming if it's on Game Pass, it actually might be a better deal to incentivize PlayStation to get better PlayStation Plus offerings or streaming, or also even make brand new games to help go and compete with all these in the first place. So I want to hear your thoughts, because it is going to be a really, really big day. The next probably week or so, we'll have a chance to calm down a little bit more on this. There's a few more topics I do want to cover on this big court case, because it's been kind of crazy all everywhere. But I want to let you guys know that we will have hopefully a little bit more switch up in content soon. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch room down below in case you guys want to follow. We have the Amazon links too as well. And of course, swing by the Twitch room if you guys are bored, and give me your thoughts and comments all down below.